Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Belgium. Welcome to Waregem, and welcome to the Elindus Arena, where Norwich City have concluded a action-packed day, double pre-season friendly day today. The first games of their Dutch slash for today Belgian tour, but mostly Dutch tour, and both games finished 1-1. FC Volendam, and then here tonight a bizarre, brilliant, wonderful pre-season game, unlike any pre-season friendly I've ever seen, against Zulte Waregem here today, and two separate 11s, mix of kind of first team and subs as well. I'm not going to go through the 11s because I'll inevitably forget them, but I'm going to start with this game and then go to the Volendam game afterwards because this one's in my head, so it's better to do it that way. I think. Hopefully, you can forgive me working from this point backwards. Hopefully, it will make sense. So yeah, this finished 1-1. It was weird, wonderful. We had two red cards. We had VAR. And that is mainly because Wargem, who got promoted, won the title in the second tier of Belgium last season. They are heading up to the top flight, the Pro League. Their season starts next weekend, actually. I think it's here, but I might have got that wrong. But it starts next weekend. And so I think there was a want to create a dress rehearsal feel about it. Subsequently had a look, and I think there was some issues in this country, as there is in every country, to be fair, particularly this country with VAR and something around an error causing a game to be replayed. Someone with more knowledge can probably fill that in, but essentially, I think that's the reason why they've run it today, so referees, players can get used to it. But it just made for a highly entertaining game, and we had a referee who really enjoyed himself, and you know what, I can totally live with that. It would be, I thought to myself, I actually tweeted it, but I thought to myself about halfway through the second half, goodness me, he'd have a lot of fun in the championship. I think there'd be cards aplenty. But nonetheless, it was a good clash, really. I thought the opening point from the start of the game to the red card were really competitive. Norwich were being tested in transition. Wargem probably struggling to keep the ball a little bit, but Norwich City not really creating too much. They had a goal disallowed. A corner came in. Sinat's buried it at the back post. Smart finish. Referee had already blown up, and VAR confirmed that decision, a real melee in the centre of the pitch, and the game was toing and throwing, really, and then a challenge on Emi Marcondes that brought a red card, which I think was a shock to everybody in a pre-season game. But it was a bad challenge. I was kind of expecting the player to go off, and then typically, as we've seen in pre-season friendlies, and Pad made the point, there was one. Oh, it would have been about 10 years ago now, when Norwich played Bastia. I think Claude Makelele was manager of them at the time in Italy. Neil Adams, I think, was the Norwich boss. And Wes Hoolahan had a very kind of red mist episode and was very, very close to being sent off. And he was kind of substituted as opposed to a formal red card. It's just Paddy's just spoken to Liam Manning, who described it as strange. And I think maybe that's a good way to sum it up, because typically you don't get them. You get maybe the referee going over, having a word with the coach and asking them to make a change and to switch that player. And that would have retained some of the competitiveness, because from that red card to AJ Bridges, which we'll come on to in the second half, the game just died a death, really, because it became about 10 men sitting in a low block and Norwich then trying to play around them, which is useful in some aspects. Is it useful 2.5 weeks into pre-season for them? I'm not sure it is, because it became essentially a training exercise where Norwich were having to shift the ball around and work it and manipulate a low block. And to be honest, it was what it was, where they looked quite disorganised with it, and it didn't quite work in the way that I think it would. But in fairness, I think you have to look through the lens, and Harry Darling has just said this, where the first 2 weeks have been a lot of emphasis on out of possession work and pressing high, and there was a lot of really good signs in that regard in the opening 20 minutes of them pressing and pressing as a pack and doing that really well. So to then flip that and to be a game where it became about them having lots of the ball and playing quite laterally and trying to break through two lines of four, that became stodgy. It became difficult. It became a difficult episode to watch, really difficult game to watch. And that's a shame, because actually I think you take the first 20 minutes, it was uber competitive. It was end to end. There was, Kovacevic put Slimani under pressure very, very early on, and both teams were pressing. They were at each other. It felt, really competitive, really good standard of game. And then that red card, if it was or if it wasn't, just kind of put an end to that. And that was a little bit of a shame, I think, from Norwich's perspective more than anything else, because at this stage of pre-season they want to be tested. And yes, it's about fitness, but it's also about working on some of those elements that Liam Manning is trying to put into this group, which clearly, given last season's frailties and deficiencies, stems around how good they can be in the press out of possession. And when you don't have that kind of level of competition, then it becomes a bit of a moot point, really. So they did get the goal. It was a nicely worked goal as well. Errol Mundle-Smith, who I thought was lively, played as on the left initially as a winger, but when the red card happened, Norwich changed to more of a back three. Jose Cordoba was playing as a left back, and just meant he could shuffle in. Stacey and Mundell Smith went really high and wide. Gibbs, who I thought was pretty good in the first half, in truth, next to Slimani. And there were a couple of times where they threaded balls through. Sienach's movement and positioning was really influential to that. But it was a bit of a slugfest, to be honest. Errol Mundell-Smith cut inside. I think it was from a Marcondes pass, who then followed his run, created the space inside, shot, deflection into the bottom corner. Really good moment for him. And again, it's the theme of today really has been about kind of younger players stepping forward. LaShawn Seeley again did it at Volendam this morning, and I'll speak about that a little bit later on. But it was good. Errol Mundell-Smith, who if Norwich do what they want to do in the transfer market, maybe won't become a frontline Norwich option this season, but he's put his name in that kind of conversation, if only for the next week. And I'm sure Liam Manning, Chris Hogg, the others as well would have, Kraus, Scarry, Stanley, etc. would have seen that performance. And I think for young players like him, like LaShawn Seeley, like Vatan Ozcan, who was good against Northampton, it's about trying to get yourself to the next game and being involved, and that is now the aim for them too. And it was a good performance. And I've seen Errol Mundell-Smith on occasion, and I think he can run a little bit hot and cold, but it's a really nice story there. Someone who's come out of the Kinetic Foundation in London and been parachuted into an academy, and was quite a rough diamond really. And Norwich, I think, beginning just to polish him a little bit. Whether that will be for Championship football and for the here and now, we'll wait and see. But there's some good stuff in there. And yeah, that was the first half really. Then second half, Norwich made a couple of changes. AJ Bridge came on for all of 3 minutes, and Ozcan as well replaced Cordoba. Good to see Cordoba get some minutes after what's been a long summer for him. No Mateus Chris Gordon, just being embedded back into the group. Only joined up on Tuesday, and again had some involvement in a competition with Denmark's youth team, and had a senior appearance as well. So I think there's just a little bit of a willingness just to give him a little bit more time to bed in. I think those two friendlies next Friday, Olympiacos and Den Haag, they maybe feel like a better moment to try and drop him in and try and insert him into the game. So let's hope that's the case. No Kenny McLean here today as well. Liam Manning's confirmed he's off to see a specialist. There's the ankle injury may require surgery. If it does, that's going to be very difficult to see how he comes back in time for the start of the Championship campaign. But let's hope it doesn't have to go down that route. Callum Fisher, hamstring. Adeboyega's been nursing a slight groin injury, so that's why he wasn't involved today. I don't think I've missed anyone else. Elliot Miles is a hamstring injury as well. So there. Josh Sargent played today. He captained Norwich City. As we stand here today, it could all move in a couple of hours, as these things inevitably do. No bid that has been made that Norwich City deemed to be acceptable at this stage. There's been lots of reports about Wolfsburg getting close. They've come back in with a bigger number. Norwich want to try and get it higher, try and push it a little bit higher. But you would expect those things to escalate and to develop. It's even pre-season. I can't get away from lawnmowers. But hey, they've got a pitch to prepare for next weekend, so no problem. Hopefully you can still hear me. So Josh Sargent played. Didn't have too much to do in the game, to be honest. There was one moment in the first half where Liam Gibbs slotted him through. Wonderful kind of just clipped pass over the top that he ran onto, and just was unable, looked to try and loft it over Gabriel in the goal, but was unable to do that. And that was routinely saved. And then the second half, just tapped the ball into the back of the net, but was kind of miles offside when it went in the net, and VAR kind of confirmed that decision as well. So that was all Josh Sargent had to do, but he was here, and he's still a Norwich player. And until that is the case, Liam Manning has said, until he's told otherwise, he's going to continue to play and to train. And feels unlikely now. I think you'd probably expect Wolfsburg and Norwich to really thrash out the terms of an agreement in the coming days and weeks. I would personally be quite surprised at this stage if he is playing for Norwich City next Friday in any of those games. But look, stranger things have happened. Clearly, Burnley have shown interest as well. So all of that will help Norwich maybe drive the price a little bit higher. But yeah, as things stand, nothing agreed yet, and that's why Josh Sargent was involved and playing today. And look, that you could argue that's a risk, and particularly given his injury record and that asset that you're sitting on. But equally, there's a player there that Norwich have to prepare for pre-season. They have to prepare in the way that he's going to, or with a view that he's going to start the Championship campaign, even if that doesn't feel the most realistic. They owe that to Sargent. And one thing I will mention is, I saw it, there are other players in the Championship, there have been other players at Norwich City in the past who wouldn't have played today, and they would have opted not to play for those reasons. I think it says a lot about Josh Sargent's character, his connection, his respect probably for the football club, for his fan base, that he was willing to play and to be involved and to try not to get hit by a lawnmower or a tractor. The fact that he was willing to play and be involved and be a part of the group today, I think speaks volumes about him as a human being and him as a professional. And, you know, if he is to go out, I think he deserves a lot of respect for the way that he's handled it and for the way that he's gone about it. Clearly, then for Norwich, the idea and the hope is that they can go and strengthen, if not like for like, and I don't think it would be a like for like replacement, then definitely as maybe in wide areas. As the game progressed, Norwich, as these pre-season games come, they were 1-0 up with about 70 minutes on the clock. That's when the mass changes were made. I think it was about 7 in total. It was basically a youth team with Vicente Reyes in goal, who, you know, there's been a lot of chatter around him, and clearly the goalkeeping situation is as it is. Norwich have signed 3. It's going to be difficult, I think, for him to make his case this year. But that being said, Liam Manning, and I outlined it to Paddy there, still sees him very much as one for the future. So that indicates maybe a loan move for him. But he made a flurry of good saves. Could do nothing about Abdoulaye Traore's brilliant strike from the edge of the area from a corner to equalise in this game. Second half as well, I forgot to mention AJ Bridge got sent off. Lunging challenge, it was late. Referee couldn't get his card out quick enough. I think he saw an opportunity to level it up. Actually, it helped. It made the game more competitive. It made it a better spectacle. But you feel for him because, you know, for any young player, when you step into a first team environment, it's an opportunity to impress, to lay down a marker, to try and stake your claim. And that's not what he would envisage when he walked onto the pitch. It won't be what defines him at Norwich City. So hopefully, I'm sure a few of the guys will get their arm around him and help him through that as well. So that was game 1. That was tonight. It's Zulte Waregem. Weird, wonderful, chaotic, 2 red cards, VAR, Sean Dyche meme at the ready. But it was good fun, and you know, I'm not a massive lover of pre-season games. They're quite good for 70 minutes and then die a death, particularly in this sort of early stage of pre-season. But this was had a lot of character by its uniqueness, shall we say, helped by some the referee was living his best life, and you know, fair play to him. The game this morning, Norwich City played Volendam near their base, actually in Berghamsted in the Netherlands, about 2 kilometres from the hotel that they're staying. Again, some good bits, some not so good bits. I think I'll pick some highlights out. It's been a little while, so I'm not going to talk you through the game, but essentially an own goal at either end. Norwich's one came from across from the right. I can't remember the player who crossed it, and it was kind of nodded in. And then at the other end, it was a cross that Rory McConville just sliced past Louis Molden and into his own net. So a tale of 2 own goals. Wasn't a host of goal mouth action in truth. Norwich started with Schwartauer up front, Jurasek, Seeley, and Emanuel Forson was the 10. And that's where I want to start, really, because we've seen him in 2 games now, Emanuel Forson as a number 10. I did hear Paddy ask Liam about that, and then I had to peel off and speak to Harry Darling. I say that. Clearly, it was a very nice chat I had with Harry Darling, but I didn't hear his answer. But I think the fact he's playing there, that feels to me like his most natural position as a number 10 behind the striker, where, yes, he can thread the ball and he can take risks, but equally probably not so costly for him to lose possession. You look at that kind of early spell that he had at Norwich where he was really influential, really bright. Actually, it was probably the errors in that spell. Swansea scored an own goal. There was Sheffield United. I remember him giving the ball away at home as well. And they were punished with goals. Cardiff, of course, as well, where I think both goals maybe could be laid at his door. But I think we've seen enough there that there is some talent and there is a player there to be unlocked. I think that number 10 position is probably the way to do it. He makes things happen. He did this morning, and I think he was really good and really impressive. And that is the type of performance that I think everyone wants to see from him now, with a bit more consistency. And hopefully, in that position, he can really flourish. Increasingly concerned I'm going to get hit by one of these tractors in a moment. So yeah, that was good. LaShawn Seeley as well. I like him. He's big. He's powerful. He's quite raw, but he's full of energy. He's full of running. He's really attacked the opportunity. It's, you know, he's come down the crease and tried to play a few shots, and I like that. You know, there was some really good drives, some really good running, very competitive. But he's got the physicality, I think, to kind of deal with senior level football. So, you know, he's still only 18, still very young. I'm not suggesting by any stretch of the imagination that he's ready to step into the first team squad in a championship setting, but I think that was very positive. Brad Hills, I thought, looked a little bit rusty at right back. It's understandable. He's not a right back, and he's been asked to kind of play out of position. I spoke to him post game, and said he very much sees himself as hopefully getting an opportunity in the Championship and getting an opportunity to impress Liam Manning, and that is the sense that he's been given after 2 very, very good loan moves, and maybe probably just needs some movement in those centre back areas to maybe give him an opportunity to step into. I would suggest. So yeah, that was kind of it, really. Oh yeah, there was one other thing I wanted to mention from the first game. I don't want to overhype it. I don't want to make a big thing of it. I'm just saying it because I think it's a magnificent achievement, irrespective of what he doesn't do from here, how good he might or isn't. AJ Tavares, 15 years old. The fact he's being dropped into a senior pre-season friendly, I think, is a wonderful achievement for a 15-year-old. He's still at school. He's not finished. I don't think his GCSEs yet, if my maths is right, which it wasn't. I only got a C, so I struggled to get that. Yeah, it was impressive that he was able to come on and make an impact. So, yeah, a few little bits there from both of these friendly games. I think they've been worthwhile episodes for Norwich City, and clearly the work will continue now and build up throughout the week. Next Friday, as I said, doubleheader Olympiacos and Den Haag to end the trip, and plenty more training. They've got competitions going on and forfeits and prizes throughout this trip as Liam Manning tries to, I think, just build some of that culture and that togetherness that is going to be so important across a 46-game championship season. So, yeah, very interesting, worthwhile, fun, entertaining games ending at the Elindus Arena. Here, there'll be Liam Manning reaction, there'll be Harry Darling reaction, there's some Brad Hills reaction already up. We've got so much more exciting content planned throughout the week as well. So, yeah, make sure you stay tuned to Pinken channels, pinken.com/subscribe. We've got a special offer on at the moment. If you haven't joined the app, definitely do that, because there's loads of exclusive content coming your way. That best lines of that stuff with Harry Darling as well. Thank you all very much for taking that. This is our 3rd live video today. So if you have tuned in to all of them, thank you so much. It's been relentless. We've got a long drive now back up to Rotterdam, and then we go again tomorrow. Thank you very much for watching. See you soon.